Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm reviewing another Monteverde ink as part of Monteverde March Mania, or Mania March. I can never remember which way I'm putting this, so either will do. The ink we're looking at today is this. This is Monteverde Midnight Black. We're going to look at it on some different kinds of paper, I've done a couple of little tests, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so let's see it on some paper. Before we look at it on paper, here is the bottle it comes in. It's the standard 30ml bottle that I'm showing for all the inks, once again in that plastic box. And with the metal cap, it's a really simple bottle. It does the job, 30ml, good value, and Monteverde inks performing pretty well across the board. Here we have the ink on Tomoe River 68 GSM paper. Had it in two pens, a TWSBI Go Broad and a TWSBI Go Extra Fine, currently being cleaned, getting ready for the next Monteverde ink. As you can see on the page, it's not super dark. It's black, but I would say, as you can also see on the colouring card there, it's sort of more, it's on the grey end of black. So let's talk about it. The 5 points. This is part of the core collection. So this is their standard run of inks, not part of one of the sets like, the Noir series or the Jungle or Sweet Life, things like that. It has the ITF technology, which is the ink technology to stop it from clogging and drying out too quickly and things like that. It also makes it nicer on the page, slightly lubricated, things like that. It's good. It's a really sort of standard, Monteverde ink property now. I've said here it's an everyday ink, and what I kind of mean by that is, firstly, color-wise, it's black, well, blackish, and so professional use, all those kinds of things, but also the performance actually kind of, allows it to be used in a not terribly wet pen on just about anything. As I said, it's got good performance. You'll see on the other paper, there is still some feathering and bleed, but it's minimal with this ink, which is nice. And the last point is that it's made in Austria, like all Monteverde inks made in Europe, packaged in the USA. So let's talk about the performance now. I've said it's not super saturated, and that goes along with the fact that it's kind of grey. It's especially light in fine nibs. You can see some of that shading through there. It has some water resistance, so I hit that with water and then I moved it around here in the triangle. So you can see it holds something back, even in the chromatography here. There's a good line held back at the bottom. But it's not waterproof. It's not their documental ink either. Okay, so it's got okay performance with little feather and bleed, and it's got a nice flow. If we look at the dry time, it is slightly long after 2 seconds, and then 20 seconds there on the page. And so, yeah, on Tomoe River paper, which is an ink-resistant paper, and it will sit on the surface, the dry time is slow. Extras, I put some shade. It's not a super shady ink, but you do get some hits of that sort of lighter grey-black. There's no visible sheen, and I'm going to caveat that with on the colouring card where the ink is pooled, you get a little bit there, and there is just a tiny little hit of it just here on the swab. But in writing, you're not getting anything. There's no shimmer, and as I said, it's not permanent ink. Let's look at it on some other paper now. Looking here at the low-end student notepad paper, this is the Reflex Spyrex student notepad paper. It actually holds fairly well. There's not a huge amount of feathering, which I really appreciate. It's a duller colour, it absorbs quickly into the paper. But if you look here at the finer nib, it actually, I think, holds pretty well. There's a less bleed, and yeah, it looks nice, I think. It's grey black, but it's black enough that if you were using this, to take notes and things like that, I think you'd be okay. On the printer paper here, which is 80 GSM reflex paper, we get the same sort of thing. It performs a little bit better, I think. This is a little bit more sort of the tighter lines. It's not quite as spread. And on the reverse, we get the similar kind of performance as we did on the lower end paper. Now on Rhodia, see where the water moved it around, it's kind of spread, and you get a bit of different colour sort of coming through, which we don't get in the chromatography. The longer dry time, once again, these are drops where I was making the swab there and dripped ink on the page. So it does say Monteverde Midnight Black. You can see the lines look good. It actually looks quite dark on this paper because it sits on the surface, much lighter, as I said, in the finer nib. And if we look at the reverse, even where we drop those drops in the swab, not a lot has actually really come through at all, which is a really positive sign. And because things like blues and blacks and those kinds of colors are colors that people tend to use for professional use more than, say, the brighter colors, even like this, the California teal. And so to have a black that, actually, if you look at it in comparison to the documental black here, you can actually see it's a slightly darker black on the page. So it is darker than the documental black, but it's not like a full black. But with decent performance on paper, I think it actually, particularly in finer nibs, makes for a good everyday ink. Looking at that chromatography, you see there's a bit of blue at the top. We don't get the pinky purple as much on this as we do when we move it around with water, but we do get sort of that dark grey, greeny kind of line through the grey, through the, sort of the darker blues and things at the top there, which gives it that nice rich colour. Not quite black, but as we said, it's okay. And actually, for that color comparison, I pulled it up alongside Platinum Carbon Black, which is like one of my go-to black inks. And although this is very shiny, it looks kind of grey. If we get it off angle to the light, you can see that this black is quite dark in comparison, particularly to that sort of a more grey black of the Monteverde. Now, price. So this 30ml bottle, as I said, it also comes in the 90, but I'm looking at the 30ml bottles and the prices of those. In the US, it's around $10, and in Australia, it's around $12.95. So that's from a couple of different retailers. It's always around that kind of price. So they're really, really good value, particularly like by per milliliter. They are pretty great, really. Now, I've given this ink a score of 3.5 out of 5. Now, in terms of performance, yes, it outperforms a couple of the other inks that have scored higher. My issue with this ink is not in the performance. I think it's pretty great. What my issue is that although it's a solid everyday ink, I would like to see it darker. This is one of the closest to black that Monteverde have in their core, particularly in their core collection. And for a company like Monteverde, who have a rather like now extensive range of inks in their output, to not have a black that is like what I would consider a true black, that might be something they want to think about going ahead. Is like actually coming up with a black. If this is their black, it's not quite black. It does look grey on the page. When you put it in a particularly wet nib and you get a bit of that pooling, particularly on paper like Tullamore River and Rhodia, yeah, it will look pretty black. But I think if you're looking for a black ink, and this is called Midnight Black, and to me that suggests it also should be quite a dark ink, I just think this is something that they can think about. Overall, I think it's a really solid ink. I think it performs really well. It looks good on the page. It does a lot of the right things. And is an incredible value. So let's just see Monteverde come up with like a real black. Even Raven Noir and things like that in their Noir series aren't super black. So just something to think about. Hope you found this video about Monteverde Midnight Black ink to be interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can contact me on Instagram, Twitter, at @the_Osage_me, or you can contact me in any of my videos here, or drop me an email, which is listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you would like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. A big thank you to Monteverde and its Australian affiliates and friends for providing me with a number of products for this series of ink reviews across March 2022. I'm really enjoying it, and it's their support that makes this channel possible, just like it's your support as my viewers. So thank you so much. Enjoy your inks, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.